Cody, a lot of people texting in some diet advice for Bryce Young to add weight. A lot of milkshake suggestions, so you were on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything with hot fudge says a 409 number. A lot of McDonald's, the Cody Stoots way, from an 847 number.
Yeah, I mean, you got to sauce up burgers. You got to put sauces on stuff because that doesn't take up a lot of room, but it adds a lot of calories.
You're a sauce guy?
I mean, on some things, yeah.
Would you consider yourself a sauceman?
No.
But a sauce guy from time to time.
I put sauce on stuff.
You got to throw sauce on there. When I was doing your McDonald's challenge, I couldn't eat the nuggets without the sauce.
Exactly.
What was your go-to sauce? Were you a sweet and sour guy during that?
I think so. I mean, I had like 4 or 5 different ones that I was alternating. Sweet and sour, a little ranch, a little barbecue, a little honey mustard. We weren't messing around that day. Yeah, the sauce helps. I'll tell you what, Bryce Young should have just recreated the movie Super Size Me and just done that over the last month.
So we should have called like Morgan Spurlock and tried to run it back with him. Remember that guy? Handlebar mustache and all?
That was the Supersize Me guy.
Yeah, that was him.
He acted like it was some Herculean effort to have a burger every day.
We had like 3 a day.
Yeah.
And
Did you see what it did to his cholesterol?
Yeah, it was a pretty Herculean effort.
Not everyone's you, man.
He was sitting there like crying in the parking lot, like, it's so much food. And then he threw up like a baby. What an idiot.
You got to try this. You're
you do
challenging this dude.
No, I eat way worse than him on a daily basis. I'm already doing that. You see me? I've already been supersized. I get another size?
Supersized Stootsy. There's a champ of the day. No, I'm right there.
CJ Stroud spoke today ahead of his combine workout. And take a listen to CJ Stroud talking about some of the quarterbacks he's inspired by and looks up to.
One of the reasons I wore number 7 was because Michael Vick, he inspired me not only just to be athletic and use my athleticism, but as a black quarterback to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. And that's something that he was very underrated in. And then I looked up to DeSean Watson a lot as somebody I feel like I have a similar playing style to. And then Joe Burrow, being able to create, not being the fastest guy ever, be able to kind of extend plays, throw guys off of you, just be tough. And that's something that I feel like I'll do in this game.
What do we make of the Michael Vick and DeSean Watson inspiration from CJ Stroud?
All right, so the DeSean Watson one. CJ, maybe we would have adjusted that one a little bit after the past couple of years. Maybe we would have changed that one. The one that stood out to me, though, was the Michael Vick one, and not because Mike Vick went to prison for all the dog stuff. He talked about, Michael Vick really inspired me, so you use your athleticism and really use it to your advantage and be mobile. You didn't do any of that. He was the worst inspiration ever for you.
Yeah.
You didn't do any of that. You did for one game in college.
Yeah, but that was a pretty big game.
You had 100 rushing yards this season. Like, what are you talking about? Mike Vick was your inspiration.
That was a half for Michael Vick in college.
You never ran. What are you talking about, Mike Vick? Golly.
So are the Texans now out on Stroud after that? That's it? Can't draft Stroud with the second pick?
He was asked a lot about the lack of rushing. And while I didn't love his answer, it felt like a good answer to protect what was the Ohio State scheme and really the Ohio State schedule. And they asked him, look, what happened? Why were you able to do it in Georgia, against Georgia, and not for every other opponent that you face that's not nearly as impressive as Georgia? And he basically said, yeah, that's one of my biggest regrets in my career, is that I didn't do that more. And I know I'm capable of it. I showed that in the Georgia game, and that's one of the things that I regret. And I think it was like a comment on like, hey, we're trying to win football games kind of at the same time too, and if I don't have to do it, I'll do it. But there were times where he definitely could have done it.
Yeah.
There were times where CJ Stroud definitely could have taken off if he had that tool in his tool belt. Now, Daniel Jeremiah said it. We've played the comment. Coaches are going to say that. Well, he did it once. We can make him do it all the time. Mm-hmm. I would just be so weary and leery of that line of thinking for a guy that literally did everything he could to avoid running the football as a quarterback.
And perhaps some business decisions, and it's the biggest game of my career, and we've got a shot to play for a national championship, so I'm going to go balls to the wall and lay it all out on the line. Maybe that was part of it, but it is weird that we only saw that consistently from C.J. Stroud in one game in his 2-year career as a starter.
Well, my wide receivers got hurt too. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. goes down, and a lot of the mobility late was after Marvin Harrison Jr. was off the field. So it's like maybe out of necessity, like an emergency, like break break glass in case of emergency, break pocket in case of emergency. That's kind of CJ Stroud's approach in college.
Here's the big thing with Stroud that we've mentioned at times, but now it's going to come into hyper-focus with the Texans having the second pick. Stroud's represented by David Mulligetta. That's the same agent who represents DeSean Watson. Stroud mentioned DeSean Watson being someone he's looked up to. He's worked out with the guy in the offseason. There's videos going back to last year of them working out together. So I wonder, how does Mulligetta and DeSean Watson even impact CJ Stroud's possible Texans future, if there is one at all?
I certainly understand asking the question, and I certainly understand making that connection. And I do wonder if part of the reason the Texans and DeSean Watson seemed to work together so well when Nick Caserio arrived was to make sure that David Mulligetta, who's one of the most important agents in the NFL, doesn't hold that against you in the future. And we talked about it. The Texans and DeSean Watson, they had an agreement. Joe Buck talked about it on national TV on Thursday Night Football and said, hey, the Texans and DeSean Watson have an agreement in place that he's not going to be around the team. They're going to pay him, and they could have gone after his money. They could have made this an annoying. They could have made that an annoying season for David Mulligetta and for DeSean Watson, but they paid him his money. He was away from the facility. They didn't say anything bad about him on the way out the door. He hadn't said anything bad about them on the way out the door. And so I do wonder if part of making sure that they were taking care of DeSean Watson was A, about getting the deal done and just making sure there weren't a lot of headaches with that.
Yeah. But
also B, hey, let's stay in the good graces of David Mulligetta, because this is not the last time we'll work with David Mulligetta.
I don't know if it's water under the bridge. I don't know if it's as simple as that. And honestly, if the Texans draft CJ Stroud, there's a part of me that's going to worry that he's going to force his way out at some point because of his relationship with DeSean Watson and his relationship with David Mulligetta. It might be stupid. It might be naive, but that's how I feel, honestly. That is how I feel. Because, yes, the Texans treated David Mulligetta and DeSean Watson as well as they possibly could have during DeShaun's last year here in Houston. A lot of teams wouldn't have done what the Texans did for DeSean, which is pay him $10 million to not show up. Nice gig. $10 million to not work. I think most of us would sign up for that right now if we could. A lot of teams out there wouldn't have done that. But let's not forget, DeSean Watson requested a trade because he was pissed about decisions this organization made.
Right.
Like, that ultimately led to this, and obviously it was prolonged by the off-the-field stuff, but DeSean didn't forget about that, and David Mulligetta didn't forget about that. So those guys, it's still the same owner, and, Nick Caserio was there for some of the DeSean Watson tenure. It's still a lot of the same people running the show down here that were here when DeSean Watson was the quarterback here. So these guys talk. I bet they have talked about Houston. And there's no way DeSean has spoken glowingly, just because of the last year. He loves Houston, and he's forgotten about all the... No, there's no way.
Well, he likes the massage parlors in Houston.
Right? Well, he does that, but, Instagram, he can find him anywhere if he's looking for him. So, there's a part of me, once again, I think most people would disagree with me on this, but there's a part of me that says if CJ Stroud ends up here in Houston, because of his relationship with Watson and Mulligetta, I'm going to be worried that his first opportunity to get out of town, he's going to try to get out of town.
My hope would be multifaceted in this. One, I would hope that the on-field product would be headed in the right direction. It wasn't. DeSean Watson's final playing season with the Houston Texans, they were thought to be able to win the division, and they won 4 football games with DeSean Watson. And it's clearly one of those situations where Watson, he wasn't happy with just putting up numbers. He was the NFL's leading passer that year, and he still wanted out because of the way the organization operated in the offseason. I tell you, Jack Easterby's gone. And it's my understanding DeSean Watson did not like Jack Easterby, did not believe he should be with the organization anymore. And I would say that DeMeco Ryans is a big factor in this. Like, the head coaching situation is going to be, like, the head coach could be the person that the draft pick interacts with the most initially. And certainly with CJ Stroud's the quarterback, he's going to interact with DeMeco Ryans the most. Yes, you'll have interactions with Nick Caserio, but the forward-facing, because remember, when DeSean wanted out, there was no head coach in place. And, there was a couple of attempts to placate him by interviewing guys that he really liked, but at that point, he still wanted out, and he wasn't changing his mind. But the head coach being in place, thinking highly of DeMeco Ryans, you would hope that he's a buffer as well. So things have changed enough, and DeMeco Ryans is a big addition to the situation that you would hope CJ Stroud wouldn't do the same thing. But I would have told you they gave DeSean everything he wanted for the most part, and he still wanted out here.
Random conspiracy theory here. CJ Stroud earlier today told everybody that he didn't want to go to Chicago. He loves Justin Fields. He thinks Justin Fields is a really good quarterback. He doesn't think the Bears should move on from Justin Fields. He actually said that at his press conference earlier today. I wonder if him bringing DeSean Watson up was like a subliminal, I don't really want to go to Houston.
I don't know if it's that deep.
He knew that was going to piss Texans fans off. He had weeks to breathe. Like every person who's ever interviewed at the Combine has been asked the exact same question CJ Stroud got asked. What players in the league do you look up to? It's not just quarterbacks. Like every single person gets asked, who do you model your game after? Who do you look up to? He had weeks, if not months, to prepare for that.
He said Burrow, though, too. You know, it's not like it was only Vick and DeShaun. And DeShaun makes sense because of the connection with his agent, also representing DeShaun, and they have a friendship. If he didn't say Burrow, maybe there's more credence to that, but I personally don't think it's that deep. Like, oh, I'm going to send a message to the Texans. Don't draft me because I'm going to bring up your old quarterback.
I'm hoping if he feels that way, we're not doing the whole between the lines thing. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say, I don't want to play for you.
Yeah, pull an Eli Manning and say you don't want to play there.
Yeah, I don't want to play for the Texans. My agent was DeSean Watson's agent, and I don't feel comfortable going there because of what happened with DeSean Watson, and I don't want to play there. If he feels that way, say it. Say it with your chest. Don't say it with your, subliminal messages.
He's Gen Z. They don't do that.
That's true. If he starts tweeting future rap lyrics, we'll really know what's going on
We're
there.
in trouble.
Thank God he's not a wide receiver. I can't imagine what his answer would have been on who he looks up to there.
Antonio Brown.
Ray Caruth. What?
Oh, man.
Or a running back? Yeah.
O.J. Simpson.
Jim Brown and O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Great players.
Not great guys.
Well, that also might be true.
Thank you for watching a video on my YouTube channel. If you're a Houston sports fan, stop what you're doing, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you listen to me, Cody Stoots, and Brad Kellner on the Wheelhouse every weekday from 3 to 7 if you are in Houston. That's on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 FM.